I'm Tracy Fancher. I'm the operations manager with the Corps of Engineers in the Mountain Home Project office. It's located here in Mountain Home at 324 West 7th Street, and that's just a few blocks west of the old downtown courthouse and town square. And I'm really here today to try to give a little information about the Corps of Engineers and how it fits in with the community, and maybe some things that people would be interested in knowing about this particular area. And we cover North Fork and Bull Shoals Lake, two big lakes, and that covers about 6 counties, and it spills into 2 states, southern Missouri and northern Arkansas, north central Arkansas, in the White River Drainage Basin area we proudly call the Ozarks. These 2 lakes, North Fork and Bull Shoals, are what we call multi-purpose projects, and they were built as part of a chain or a system of lakes in the White River Drainage Basin, and they were primarily authorized and built following the flood of 1927. A great big flood throughout the nation, and when the Mississippi River really got big, got up real high. And the White River did too. So Congress authorized these projects, and North Fork was built first in this White River system, and then Bull Shoals came along next, North Fork in the 40s, and during World War II, completed, and Bull Shoals next in 52, and then on up the chain is Table Rock and Beaver Lake. And by being multi-purpose projects, the primary reason they were built to start with was to control flood, was to capture floodwaters, store it, and be able to release it in a controlled fashion downstream. As conditions got right downstream, further south in Arkansas, we could release these waters primarily through the hydroelectric generation, use generators, which was another purpose or another function there, along with flood control. And you could let the floodwaters go in a controlled fashion. And that they do that very well. They still do that to this day, and it's still their primary function. But along with that, as time went along, they became great recreation lakes. The water, clear waters, nice land around the lake, camping, outdoor recreation became very popular, and these became very desirable places for people to do that. So the Corps of Engineers, a federal agency, part of the U.S. Army and Department of Defense, added in parks areas around the lakes and facilities to try to help the American public enjoy this. And we like to think that that complements and helps support tourism business, especially in this area. And it's also, we found a very good reason and a benefit of living in this area. So we find that a lot of people come here for a variety of reasons, but definitely because of the quality outdoor experience and recreation opportunities that they have in this area. The lakes are also used for municipal water, for drinking water, and the city of Mountain Home gets their water supply from North Fork Lake. North Fork and Bull Shoals combined total about 160,000 acres of land and water. At the normal pool, the conservation or normal pool for both lakes, about 60,000 of that is water between the 2 lakes, 40,000 on Bull Shoals, 20,000 on North Fork, and about 100,000 acres of public lands. As the water would go up, if we were capturing flood water, there'd be less land and more water. But a lot of public land around the lakes, and that was it's different philosophies came about in time for the government. At the time that North Fork and Bull Shoals were purchased or authorized, the government purchased a lot of land around the lake. We feel that's been a great benefit to the lake, to the quality of the water, and also to the quality of the recreational experience that people get on these lakes, even in comparison to Table Rock and Beaver, which are still part of the system just upstream. They came along at a later time, and the government did not purchase as much land there. They just purchased to the top of the flood pool. They bought the right to flood that. They actually bought flowage easement, whereas North Fork and Bull Shoals were purchased fee simple, outright. So it's made a difference in how close housing, development, and other things can get to the lake. And although some people would like to be closer, we think a long-term benefit is that people are back further away and they can still enjoy the lake, but it has helped keep this buffer strip or filter strip of land between development and the water, which has helped our water quality tremendously over time. Below each dam is a very nice cold water trout fishery that was in cooperation with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, done by the federal government as mitigation for the warm water fishery that was lost when the dams were built, primarily smallmouth bass and other warm water species. The trout, they do well in the cold water, but it's very dependent upon the water levels, how much generation. There's 8 generating units at Bull Shoals and 2 at Norfolk. And depending on the level of generation, how many of those are running at any given time, it can affect decisions that people make below when they want to fish, whether they're in a boat or they're going to fly fish or wade. So we have numbers, we have phone numbers at the dam where people can call 24/7 and get a recording to tell them the status of the generators, when they came on, what level they're on, and you can also get that from a website. To help make decisions and help try to be safe when you make decisions about what you want to do for your fishing or recreation. We do allow some limited private boat docks around the lake, around each lake. And that's done in accordance to a shoreline management plan that was developed for each lake. And those are available on the website, and they're also available at our office, and they go into more specifics. But basically it's like a city zoning situation where certain areas may be approved for boat docks and some areas are set aside or protected. We have a brochure available, a guideline to shoreline use that discusses a lot more specifics, and it's also available on our website. And it talks more about private boat docks if a person thinks they're interested in that. There are situations where they could buy an existing one, or they could buy and be approved for a permit to put one in. The permits are $30 for 5 years. The permit is not the expensive part of it. It's finding an area where it would be allowed, or a situation where they can buy into an existing dock. And this would allow a person to go down and have a structure on public land and water that they could use, they and their family could use exclusively. And one thing about it, with the lakes fluctuating a lot, these take a lot of care. If we're capturing flood water and the lake levels are going up and down, be aware that someone needs to be there to move that dock, to stay with the water, follow it up if the water's coming up, follow it down if the water's going down. Bull Shoals can fluctuate from normal pool level to about 40 vertical feet, so that spreads out over a large area. That's an extreme. Norfolk could fluctuate about 28 feet above. It was designed to hold that much water and then release it right back down to its conservation or flood control pool. So that presents some challenges for any dock owner, whether it's a marina or certainly a private dock on the lake. We also allow some uses for a pathway, a private type pathway down to the lake. Again, in an approved area, we will come out and work with them on site, mark that, tell them what they can and can't do, and they can maintain a small pathway to access the shoreline. Anyone's welcome to walk across public land at any time, with or without a path. We do allow in some situations, a person, if their house was close to the boundary line, the government strip, or the actual boundary line is marked with white paint on trees and fence posts. And we will be glad to help any person, adjoining landowner, locate that line if they're close or joining the government property line. But a person may, if their house happened to be close to that, they could apply for a permit that would allow them to do minor type of mowing or underbrushing from a fire protection measure. We tend to follow now the Rural Fire Protection Association standards for what is called defensible space, and that is maybe up to a 30-35 foot type mowing situation in some instances. And then maybe some small limbing. And again, we meet you on site and talk about specifics before we would issue that permit. But it's primarily so that if a fire did happen to come from public land, that it would have a space where it wouldn't reach your structure, your property. There would be a mowed or defensible space there, is the intent of the permit.